Once upon a time in Lagos State, there were two best friends, Ada and Kimi. Their friendship forged from childhood days of running through the dusty streets and sharing secrets in the corners of their schoolyard. They were inseparable, their bond admired by all who knew them. Ada was the gentle one, her smile as warm as the sun that kissed the streets each morning. She was the kind of person who put others before herself, always offering a helping hand without expecting anything in return. Her quiet grace and natural beauty made her stand out, though she never sought attention. Kimi, on the other hand, was more outspoken, bold, and ambitious. She dreamed of a life of luxury and success, wanting to rise above the circumstances she had grown up in. Though she loved Ada like a sister, there was always a flicker of envy in her heart. Ada seemed to glide through life effortlessly, while Kimi felt like she had to fight for everything. Despite their differences, they remained the best of friends. They navigated through school, relationships, and the challenges of adulthood together. Ada became a successful fashion designer, her work known across the city for its elegance and creativity. Kimi, too, had her achievements, but somehow she always felt like she was living in Ada's shadow. When Ada met Emeka, a charming and successful entrepreneur, Kimi was happy for her, at least on the surface. Beneath her congratulatory smiles, there was a growing bitterness. Emeka was everything Kimi had ever wanted in a man, strong, caring, and successful. But he had eyes only for Ada. As their relationship blossomed, Kimi's envy grew, though she tried her best to hide it. As the wedding date approached, Ada asked Kimi to be her maid of honor. Kimi accepted with a smile, but inside, she seethed with jealousy. The wedding preparations began, with Ada glowing with happiness and excitement. Little did she know that her best friend's heart was filled with darkness. The city streets of Lagos bustled with wedding chatter, the air thick with excitement for Ada and Emeka's big day. People praised Ada's luck for finding such a wonderful man, and how she had everything, a successful career, beauty, and now the perfect wedding. These compliments, while intended to be harmless, planted deeper seeds of resentment within Kimi. Kimi, in her heart, wanted to be happy for Ada. After all, they had been through so much together. But as Ada's life seemed to blossom with success and joy, Kimi couldn't help but feel left behind. The whispers of admiration for Ada that floated through the city became like a haunting echo in Kimi's mind, reminding her of her own perceived shortcomings. Each time she visited Ada's apartment, now filled with wedding invitations and beautiful gifts from well-wishers, her jealousy grew. The sight of the elegant wedding dress Ada would wear, the glittering jewelry, and the lavish decorations made Kimi feel like she was being suffocated under the weight of Ada's happiness. Kimi's heart, once full of admiration for Ada, began to turn dark. Every smile, every word of encouragement Ada gave her, now felt patronizing, even though Ada was genuine in her care. Kimi started to withdraw emotionally, but Ada, caught up in her own wedding plans, didn't notice. She still saw Kimi as her dear best friend, the one she could count on. But deep down, Kimi was no longer that friend. The contrast between their lives had become unbearable for her. Ada had it all, and in Kimi's mind, it was Ada's happiness that was robbing her of her own. The turning point came when Emeka hosted a pre-wedding dinner at a fancy restaurant in the city. It was an event full of love, laughter, and admiration for the couple. Kimi sat at the table, forcing a smile as the guests showered the couple with toasts and praises. Every compliment towards Ada felt like a stab in her chest. And when Emeka stood up to give a toast to his bride-to-be, calling her the most beautiful, kind-hearted woman he'd ever met, something snapped in Kimi. In that moment, Kimi realized she no longer wanted to be just a part of Ada's life. She wanted to see it ruined. The jealousy that had been simmering in her heart was now boiling over. Ada had everything that Kimi wanted, and in her mind, Ada had to pay for it. As the evening ended, Kimi watched Emeka and Ada leave together, their hands intertwined, the perfect image of love and happiness. Kimi clenched her fists, her heart pounding with rage. The thought that Emeka had never looked at her the way he looked at Ada fueled her jealousy further. She hated that Ada had found the love she had secretly longed for, and that she was now living the dream life that Kimi desired. Kimi left the dinner with a burning resolve. She would no longer stand in the shadows of Ada's happiness. It was time to take matters into her own hands, and she knew exactly how to do it. As the wedding preparations reached their peak, Lagos buzzed with the news of the grand celebration. Ada's wedding had become the talk of the city. Socialites and influencers from all over were eager to attend the event, and the finest vendors were enlisted to make it a day to remember. Ada, always thoughtful, included Kimi in every decision. From picking out the venue to choosing the bridesmaids' dresses, Kimi was always at Ada's side, her trusted maid of honor. But with every decision, with every smile Ada offered, Kimi's heart darkened further. Each dress fitting, each wedding rehearsal was another reminder of Ada's perfect life and the life Kimi felt she deserved. Kimi's bitterness was now masked with a sickeningly sweet smile. She expertly hid her true feelings, pretending to be the supportive friend Ada had always known her to be. But behind closed doors, Kimi was planning. She began searching online, looking for something that could disfigure Ada, something that would strip away the beauty that had captured Emeka's heart. Acid. Late one night, Kimi found herself deep in the dark corners of the internet, reading about how acid attacks could cause irreparable damage. The idea disgusted her, but it also gave her a twisted sense of satisfaction. She could take away everything that made Ada beautiful, her face, her charm, her confidence. She could reduce Ada to nothing. Meanwhile, Ada, blissfully unaware of Kimi's growing hatred, was overwhelmed with joy as the wedding approached. She confided in Kimi about her excitement and her nerves, not knowing that Kimi had already set the wheels in motion for her destruction. Emeka's family, too, was ecstatic about the upcoming union. Emeka's mother, a traditional Nigerian woman, welcomed Ada into the family with open arms. This acceptance only fueled Kimi's envy further. Ada was being embraced not just by her husband-to-be, but by his entire family. And in Kimi's eyes, it wasn't fair. Kimi contacted an underground supplier, someone who could provide her with the acid she needed. She made the transaction in secret, her heart pounding with each step she took into the shadows. But with each passing day, her resolve grew stronger. No one suspected her. After all, who would think that the maid of honor could harbor such dark intentions? As the wedding day approached, Kimi rehearsed her plan over and over in her mind. She knew exactly when and where she would strike. Ada's beauty would be destroyed, and so would her perfect life. Kimi would make sure of that. In the days leading up to the wedding, Kimi found herself reflecting on the years she had known Emeka. They had all met around the same time, through mutual friends in the city. While Kimi had admired Emeka from a distance, it was Ada who had caught his eye. Kimi remembered the first time she met him, his confidence, his intelligence, his success. She had been drawn to him immediately, but she had never made her feelings known. She watched in silence as Emeka grew closer to Ada, their relationship blossoming into love. As time went on, Kimi's admiration for Emeka turned into obsession. She began to resent Ada even more, not just for her beauty and success, but for the fact that she had Emeka's heart. Kimi convinced herself that she would have been the better partner for him. She believed that Ada didn't truly appreciate how lucky she was to have a man like Emeka. Now, as Ada's wedding day loomed, Kimi's jealousy and obsession with Emeka reached a fever pitch. She started fantasizing about a future where Ada was out of the picture, where she could somehow take her place. In her mind, she justified her plans. If she couldn't have Emeka, then Ada didn't deserve him either. The acid had been delivered. It was stored in a small, inconspicuous bottle hidden away in Kimi's apartment. Every time she looked at it, she felt a mix of fear and excitement. She knew the consequences of her actions, but at this point, her envy had consumed her completely. She couldn't turn back now. Kimi had it all planned out. On the night of the wedding, after the reception, she would lure Ada away under the guise of helping her with her dress. It would be quick, just one splash, and Ada's life would be ruined forever. No one would suspect her. After all, who would think that the smiling, supportive maid of honor could commit such a monstrous act? As Kimi stood by Ada's side, helping her finalize the last-minute details of the wedding, she smiled and pretended to be happy. But in her mind, she was already counting down the hours until she would finally destroy everything Ada held dear. The wedding day was now just a few days away. As Lagos buzzed with excitement, Kimi's plan solidified. The more she thought about it, the more confident she became that everything would go exactly as she imagined. She had rehearsed every detail in her mind 100 times, ensuring that there would be no room for mistakes. The city streets seemed alive with the anticipation of Ada and Emeka's grand wedding. Billboards advertised the couple's pre-wedding photo shoots, and social media was flooded with well wishes. Ada was becoming something of a local celebrity, with people praising her grace and beauty. Meanwhile, Kimi lived in the shadows, invisible to those who only saw Ada's shine. This feeling of being overlooked fueled her resolve even further. Kimi decided to strike at a moment when Ada would be at her most vulnerable, on the night of the wedding, when everyone would be celebrating, and Ada would be basking in her happiness. It would be late into the night, when Ada was tired and when the celebrations were winding down. Kimi, as her maid of honor, would be expected to help Ada with her wedding dress, giving her the perfect opportunity to get Ada alone. The acid bottle was carefully hidden in Kimi's handbag. The small container looked harmless, just another item in the sea of beauty products and essentials a maid of honor might carry. No one would ever suspect. She planned to pour it into a water bottle, making it easy to conceal in plain sight until the crucial moment arrived. The tension within Kimi continued to build. On the surface, she went about her duties as if nothing was amiss. She helped Ada select her final accessories, guided her through her bachelorette night, and even gave her a heartfelt pep talk about how much she deserved happiness. Ada, always the trusting friend, was none the wiser. She still believed Kimi had her best interests at heart. Little did she know that her best friend was the one planning her downfall. The wedding preparations were grand, with the reception planned to be held at one of Lagos' most luxurious hotels. The guest list was packed with influential people from across the city. Everyone wanted to witness this union, as it had become the talk of the town. The night before the wedding, Kimi found herself alone in her apartment. She stared at the acid bottle, turning it over in her hands. For a brief moment, a flicker of doubt passed through her mind. Could she really do this? Could she destroy her best friend, the person who had been by her side through thick and thin? But the doubt didn't last. She thought of Emeka, his love for Ada, his admiration, the way he looked at her with devotion. In Kimi's twisted mind, Ada had stolen him. Ada had stolen the life Kimi was meant to have, the life Kimi deserved. No, she couldn't back out now. Ada's happiness was built on Kimi's pain, and Kimi was determined to take it all away. That night, Kimi dreamt of Ada's wedding. But in her dream, it wasn't Ada standing at the altar, it was her. Emeka was smiling at her, holding her hand. They were the perfect couple, adored by all. When she awoke, her heart was racing. The dream felt so real, and it only strengthened her desire to see Ada's downfall. The day before the wedding was a whirlwind of last-minute preparations and celebrations. Ada was glowing with happiness, surrounded by friends and family who couldn't stop talking about how beautiful the wedding was going to be. Kimi, as always, was by her side, pretending to share in the excitement while carefully hiding her growing anticipation for what was about to unfold. That evening, after the final wedding rehearsal, Ada invited Kimi over to her apartment for a quiet moment together. The two had always had these heart-to-heart talks, but this one felt special. It was the night before Ada's biggest day, and she wanted to share it with the person she believed to be her closest confidant. They sat on the balcony overlooking the city, the lights of Lagos twinkling below them. Ada sipped her tea, her eyes filled with dreams about her future with Emeka. She spoke about how blessed she felt, how everything in her life seemed to be falling into place. She talked about her excitement to start a family, to build a life with the man she loved. Every word Ada spoke made Kimi's heart race with both fury and fear. How could Ada be so unaware of the storm brewing right next to her? I don't know what I would have done without you, Kimi, Ada said, turning to her with a smile that made Kimi's stomach twist. You've been my rock through all of this. I'm so lucky to have you as my best friend. The words were like a knife to Kimi's chest. Ada's genuine gratitude should have softened her heart, but instead, it made her angrier. How could Ada be so naive? So unaware of the pain she had caused by simply existing in Kimi's life? The jealousy that had festered for so long now erupted into full-blown hatred, but Kimi kept her expression calm, smiling back at Ada as though nothing was wrong. I'm lucky to have you too, Ada, Kimi lied, her voice steady. You deserve all the happiness in the world. As they hugged goodnight, Kimi knew that this would be the last time she would hold her friend without malice in her heart. Tomorrow, everything would change. That night, Kimi barely slept. She lay in bed, her mind racing with thoughts of what was to come. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends and vendors making sure everything was set for the wedding. But Kimi's thoughts were elsewhere, focused on her dark plan. The acid bottle sat on her nightstand, a constant reminder of the terrible act she was about to commit. She had come too far to turn back now. By the time morning came, Kimi felt nothing but cold determination. This was it, the day she would change everything. The wedding day dawned bright and beautiful, the perfect Lagos morning for what was to be the most lavish celebration the city had seen in years. Ada was in high spirits, her excitement palpable as she prepared for her big day. Her makeup artist, hairstylist, and bridesmaids all fluttered around her, making sure every detail was perfect. Kimi, dressed in her maid of honor gown, moved through the preparations like a ghost, her mind focused on one thing, the moment when everything would fall apart. The wedding ceremony was breathtaking. Held at one of the city's most prestigious venues, the hall was filled with family, friends, and dignitaries who had come to witness Ada and Emeka's union. As Ada walked down the aisle, a vision of beauty in her white gown, the guests gasped in admiration. Emeka stood at the altar, his eyes filled with love and pride as he watched his bride approach. Kimi watched the scene unfold from her position by the altar. She was close enough to see every detail of Ada's joy, close enough to feel the tension in her own body rise. She clenched her hands, trying to keep her composure. This was it, the final moments before everything would change. As Ada and Emeka exchanged vows, Kimi's mind wandered. She barely heard the words, barely noticed the tears of happiness from the guests around her. Her thoughts were consumed by the plan she had spent weeks crafting. She had the acid with her, tucked away in her handbag. It was so close, and yet, the time wasn't right. She had to wait. The reception would be the perfect opportunity, when Ada would be alone, vulnerable, and unaware. When the ceremony ended and the newlyweds walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, the crowd erupted in applause. Ada and Emeka were the perfect picture of love and happiness. But Kimi's eyes were cold as she clapped along with everyone else, knowing that soon, this happiness would be shattered beyond repair. As the guests moved to the reception venue, Kimi felt her heart race with anticipation. The time was near. The wedding reception was nothing short of grand, held at one of the most luxurious hotels in Lagos. The hall was decorated with elegant floral arrangements, shimmering chandeliers, and long tables lined with exquisite dishes. The high society of Lagos had gathered in full, dressed in their finest attire, as Ada and Emeka made their grand entrance as husband and wife. Ada, glowing with joy, radiated beauty in her second wedding gown, a sleek, shimmering white dress that hugged her figure and made her look every bit the queen of the evening. As she and Emeka took their first dance together, all eyes were on them. The guests cheered and clapped, admiring the perfect couple as they moved gracefully across the floor. Kimi watched from the sidelines, her stomach churning with a mixture of anger and anticipation. Everyone's attention was on Ada and Emeka, but soon enough, that would change. In her mind, the countdown had already begun. The moment she had waited for was almost here. As the evening wore on, Kimi continued to play the role of the dutiful maid of honor, assisting Ada with her dress and ensuring everything ran smoothly. Ada was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing next to her. She laughed and mingled with guests, shared sweet moments with Emeka, and soaked in the adoration from the people around her. But Kimi was focused. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind so many times that she could almost see it unfolding in front of her like a scene from a play. After the reception's formalities, the speeches, the toasts, the cutting of the cake, Kimi would pull Ada aside, claiming she needed help with a minor wardrobe malfunction. She would lead her to a secluded area, away from the guests. And then, when no one was watching, she would strike. As the night wore on, the moment drew closer. Kimi's hands trembled slightly as she clutched her handbag, the small bottle of acid still hidden inside. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of adrenaline and fear coursing through her veins. This was it, there was no turning back now. The final toast was made, and the music began to slow. Guests started to wander off to the outdoor terrace, mingling in smaller groups, and the hall became less crowded. Kimi knew the time had come. She approached Ada, her voice calm but urgent. "Ada, there's a small issue with your dress. I need to help you fix it." Ada, ever trusting, smiled and followed her without hesitation. Let me know in the comment section if you want part 2. Don't forget to subscribe.